Okay, welcome everyone. I'm Christine Biglin from the St. Mary's County Library. I appreciate you spending some of your time with us this evening so that we can talk to Barb Whipkey, who is the owner of Wild Birds Unlimited in Lexington Park and LaPlata. And today we are talking about the 12 elements of a thoughtful bird feeding station. This is good if you're just starting out, but it is also great to review how you're doing things. In case you have forgotten some of the basics. So this is great info for everybody. So welcome, Barb.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. Okay, so I'm not going to do a PowerPoint tonight because we're actually I've got a whole system back here and we're actually going to create that as we go along. So first of all, I have a hobby guide here and we have these in the store. If you stop by either our Lexington Park or LaPlata store, just ask one of our team members for a hobby guide. But you can also go to our website, and Christine, I'll get you that website if you don't have it. I did put a link to the hobby guide on the website today so that you can find this all on the website. But if you're like me and you're more of a paper person and you want a copy of it, we have a copy of it here. But everything we're going to cover is actually in this hobby guide here. So you'll be able to have it either on the website or in your hands if you want to stop by the store. Okay. And where this comes from is actually The Joy of Bird Feeding. Do you know, Christine, if you have this book in the library or not? It's The Joy of Bird Feeding by Jim Carpenter. Jim Carpenter is the founder of Wild Birds Unlimited. And he wrote this book, I think it was in 2017. But it actually has the 12 elements in there and it's a lot more detailed in there. So, of course, we have them here in the store for sale, but a lot of libraries as well have those. So they may have it there in the library. Sure, Christine will check for us on that. But like I said, if nothing else, we definitely have those hobby guides here for you. So the 12 elements, basically it's 12 things that you want to have for a successful bird feeding station. So when you're building a station, it's those things you want to think of that you just might not think of if you're putting up a pole system. So we're going to cover those one by one. The first thing is a foundational feeder. So what a foundational feeder is that one feeder that's never going to go empty. If you're feeling a little lazy and some of those feeders just don't always get filled, that foundational feeder is that one feeder that's always going to have food in it. So it's going to be one that's a little bit larger. So it's going to hold enough food to last several days, a week or so. Birds like our house finches, for instance, once they find a feeder or a source of food, they never forget. They know during bad weather, limited food sources, they will always remember that that lady always has food out for me, and they're going to head your way. So it's important that you have a foundational feeder so when they get there, that feeder always has food. So a foundational feeder can be something like this that's going to hold a lot of food. It can be a hopper style, one like this, still a good size feeder, but going to hold a lot of food in it as well. So with a hopper feeder, opens up this way. Nice thing about hopper feeders, all birds can eat from a hopper feeder. So we're going to add one of the foundational feeders to our pole system here. So that's our first of our 12 elements. So there's other ones. If you wanted to put it in a different location, maybe you wanted to put it up on your deck where it's not squirrel proof, some type of squirrel proof feeder can be a foundational feeder. This particular one closes off. There's a lot of squirrel-proof feeders out there that are weighted, that when a squirrel gets on them, they'll close. And those tend to be high capacity feeders. So those would work well as a foundational feeder. Just make sure it's going to have enough food to last a week or so. So that's your first element there. And then a tray feeder. So angle left here. So this is going to be my tray feeder. I can get it untangled here. So this particular one, I have a weather guard on. With tray feeders, I always recommend putting weather guards on them because otherwise that seed, if you put it out, especially as much rain as we have had recently, there is just constantly, you're going to put it out there and within a day or so, the rain is going to ruin that seed. The wonderful thing about tray feeders is all the birds can eat from a tray feeder. Right now, I know you're probably all battling grackles at your feeders. So in this case, with a tray feeder, right now you might want to put safflower in it to try to keep some of those grackles from destroying it. But a tray feeder is going to be number 2. You're going to want to make sure you have a tray feeder. So we're going to put that up here. And again, if you want to put that tray feeder somewhere else, you can use a window feeder. We have a lot of window feeders that have tray feeders. You can get a lot of variety of window feeders that just suction cup on, and they tend to, a lot of those have tray feeders. So it's always good to have pole systems in one location, but if you can spread your 12 elements out in multiple locations, you're going to bring in more birds. So don't think about only what you can put on this pole system. Think about other ways you can feed. Okay, number 3 is going to be a fat or a suet feeder. A lot of you are probably familiar with the traditional suet cakes that come in the little blocks. And then just the little green cages are a common type of suet feeder. This particular one I have here has the little cage where you would drop it down in. This style is a tail prop. When woodpeckers eat, they prop their tail for balance. Suet is a favorite, well, insects are the favorite food of suet. I'm sorry, let me try that again. Insects are the favorite food of woodpeckers. And those birds who eat insects, their favorite food tends to be suet. Of course, right now, a lot of the birds are using that suet to feed their young. So you're probably noticing that your suet is going quicker than it ever did even in the winter time. That's because baby birds get all their moisture from their food. So that's what they're using that suet for. You're probably seeing them come, gobble it down, and then leaving with a beak full of suet. That means they're heading back to the nest to take it back to their young. Add to the fact that we've had so much rain lately. When it's raining, the insects aren't flying, so there's less insects out there for them to grab to feed those young. So that tends to push them more to our feeders, even more so to feed grab that suet to feed those young. So if we're going to put it on a pole system that's squirrel proof, we can use regular suet. But if you're going to put that suet on a tree, on a deck, somewhere that's not squirrel proofed, you want to get a suet that has hot pepper in it or a suet that's in a cage, so you're not feeding it to the squirrels instead. So we're going to add our suet to the pole system. And one thing, just a quick note, when you're looking at suet, take the time to look at the ingredients. You want to make sure that you're buying suet. Right now, you want to be looking for no melt because we are coming into the heat of the summer. If your suet's not in a sunny location, you can still get away with the regular for a bit. The birds prefer the regular suet, but if it's out in a totally sunny location, you're probably going to want to go with the no melt suet. No melt will melt at a won't melt on you in this heat, but it's a much drier consistency. So the birds do prefer the regular suet, but you're also not going to want that dripping down the side of your feeders. So if it's a sunny location, watch for suets that say no melt. As well, check out the ingredients on the suet you're purchasing. If you notice there's a lot of grains in that suet, pass that suet up. That is not a good quality suet you're buying. If you're seeing artificial flavorings in that suet, pass that suet up as well. Birds don't have a sense of taste. If they're putting artificial flavorings in there, they're putting that suet in there for you, or those artificial flavors, they're putting that in there for you, the consumer. So watch for, I'll actually read you the ingredients on this one is roasted peanuts. There is corn in this one, and that's because I've grabbed the no melt. So they've used that to bind it for the no melt. Normally there wouldn't be corn in there. You would prefer not to have corn when feeding the birds, but for the no melt variety, we do need the corn in there. Rendered beef suet, mealworms, almonds, pecans, walnuts, oats, and then calcium carbonate. And that's just calcium to help the birds as they're feeding their young and just to help bring back to, it's actually a supplement that we're providing to the birds. So those are the kind of ingredients you're looking for. If you're seeing that they're filled with grains, Milo, things like that, pass that suet up. So you can find those suet cakes for $1 in that, but when you actually look at the ingredients, you're getting what you pay for. You know, just a interesting experience. Buy 2 of those suet cakes and melt them down, put them in a baggie and melt them down, and look at what you get when it melts down. And you'll see the answer right there. So one time I picked up a suet cake that said it was orange suet. And when I looked at the ingredients, there was no oranges in it. There was cherry flavoring. So, but they don't have the same FDA standards that we have on human foods. So take the time to just read the labels a little bit and see what you're getting. Okay, so that is number 3. So that's our fat and suet feeder. And then number 4, finch feeder. Lost my finch feeder. Here it is. Okay. Finch feeder. So you will notice that finch feeders have much smaller little ports. And that's because our finch have tiny little beaks on them. You've also probably noticed, and we hear it all the time, oh, but my finch just eat the nomads, or my finch eat the sunflower chips. And they will eat those, but you've also probably noticed that right now your feeders are crazy busy. So our goldfinch are the politest little birds out there. So they tend to sit there and wait for a port to open. While those feeders are really busy, by the time a port opens and they go to fly down to it, somebody else has moved in. So the purpose in a finch feeder is to give them a feeder of their own that they don't have to share with everybody else. So they will eat from other feeders too, but it's giving them an exclusive feeder to make sure that they're coming to your feeder and finding food without having to be the last ones at the feeder. So a couple little tips with Niger. So Niger is a seed. It's the only seed that has to be imported into the US. Niger's a little tiny black seed, has a shell on it, has to be imported to the US. So before it comes into the US, it has to be heat treated to make sure to kill off any weeds or anything. By the time it gets to us, it's already older than the rest of our seeds. So it's important to buy smaller bags of seed. Before I opened the store, I was going to other stores and I'd open a bag of seed, run it between my hands, and it would just crumble. When you open a bag of Niger, if you rub it between your fingers and it's crumbling, you might as well toss that in the wood because that seed is already old and those finch are not going to eat it. Along with being polite, goldfinch are also our most finicky of all the birds. So toss it out into the woods because they're not going to eat it. When you go into the store, don't buy a great big bag of Niger unless your finch are going through it within a week or two, because you're not going to be able to circulate it before it gets old. Let the store circulate it and keep fresh Niger for you. If it's on a squirrel-proof location, you can use what is called finch blend. Finch blend is a combination of Niger and sunflower chips. However, if it's not squirrel-proofed, once we add those sunflower chips to it, the squirrels will be all over it. The process of heat treating it, the squirrels are not a fan of that. So straight Niger is okay to put in this feeder and put out somewhere where the squirrels could potentially get to it. They don't like that Niger. The minute we turn it into finch blend and add sunflower chips to it, the squirrels are moving in on it. So keep that in mind. If it's not squirrel-proofed, stick with Niger. If it's in a squirrel-proof location, go with finch blend because the finch prefer the combination of the two. And then a couple little tips. When you fill it, our feeders open from the bottom and the top. If you have a feeder that opens from the bottom, when you fill it, turn it upside down and fill it from the bottom. The reason for that is finch always prefer to eat from the top down. So if they fly up to this perch, they're going to prefer to eat up here rather than down here. So that way, you keep putting your new in here, and they're getting the old seed from the top. And this little top I'm putting on, these are weather guards. I know there's stores out there selling those as squirrel baffles. This is not intended to be a squirrel baffle. A squirrel can chew through this plastic. They can also come right around that. So that's just a weather guard to help keep your seed dry. So I mentioned that the goldfinch eat from the top down. So for the same reason, when you hang your finch feeder on your pole system, you want to hang it, if you have 4 hooks like we have on our pole system here, we want to hang this on your highest of your 4 hooks. So if you have 2 up here and then 2 down here, the finch feeder always gets one of the highest hooks. The finch prefer to eat from the highest spot. So I'm going to put the finch feeder up here at the top. So that's number 4. And then number 5 is nectar, jelly, and fruit. Hopefully everybody's seeing lots of hummingbirds right now. This year, hummingbirds are a little bit lighter than years past. It changes every year. We really don't know why. Most likely it's just a case of what's out in nature for them. So it determines how far they need to come to find natural food. We see the same thing with migration of the other birds every year. You know, some winters we get extra birds come to visit us. It's most likely the same thing with hummingbirds, but US wide, everybody's seeing fewer hummingbirds this year, but it happens every year. We have good years and we have light years, but it changes year to year. We don't feel it's anything to worry about because it's a cycle we see all the time. We are hearing a lot of people saying, I'm not seeing them in my feeder, but I'm seeing them out on the plants and that, which is an awesome thing. So they're out there. Maybe it's a great thing that maybe people are using less pesticides in that. So maybe they're finding more natural foods in that. But I would say just keep changing your nectar. Remember, you don't have to fill your nectar feeders all the way up. We get in that habit of we see a bottle and so we fill it all the way up. You don't have to do that even with our disc style hummingbird feeders. A hummingbird's tongue will go all the way to the bottom of that. So if you have our hummingbird feeders, you do not have to fill that all the way up. If they're not drinking through it before you have to change it, don't fill it all the way each time. Just put a little bit in there. The key is to make sure you're changing it regularly and washing those hummingbird feeders well. You can make your own hummingbird nectar, 1 part sugar, 4 parts water. Don't use any organic sugars, no honey, no brown sugar, just good old-fashioned plain sugar like we were raised on. It's all you need. It will help if you've got an ant moat in the middle. So in this particular one, they're built in here. You fill this with water. When the ants crawl down, they drown there. If you have a style that does not have an ant moat, we have little red cups that you can hang up here above, fill with water, and it works the same way. So we do have those as well. But an ant moat is going to help you a lot to keep the ants out of there and keep your nectar fresher. So that's going to be a nectar feeder. So we'll get that hung on here. And then you can also jelly feeders. So we often think of orioles and, we hear that and it's like, I never get orioles though. And yes, it's our state bird, but few of us see orioles here. However, there's a lot of other birds here that do like grape jelly. When we talk about grape jelly, it's not the store grape jelly. That is really high in sugar and not great for the birds. But we do have a grape jelly that is much lighter in sugar, doesn't have the added corn syrup in that. But you can put a small amount of that in any type of little cup or something like that that you put out there. Many of our birds are bluebirds, Carolina red, and red-bellied woodpecker. So a lot of our birds, catbirds, mockingbirds, a lot of them love the fruit and will come to the feeder. So we put something like this out and we'll add our fruit feeder. Okay, that is number 5 of our 12 elements. And then, of course, during migration season, also with number 5, is an oriole feeder, because during migration, we do see orioles come through. And in fact, in the last few years, during the winter months, we've had several customers that are keeping orioles in the winter. So as the weather patterns are starting to change, they're not migrating as far south. So who knows, you could be the next one to have an oriole winter over with you. So then number 6 would be snacks, specialty, and convenience foods. So there's a lot of different varieties. We'll cover a few of them. One of my favorites is going to be cylinder feeders. So if you haven't used cylinder feeders, basically it's a gelatin food held together in a cylinder. The birds just come down, cling on it, and eat. A feeder like this, you can also add bark butter bits, peanuts, anything like that. Mealworms, lots of different variety. You can put loose seed in there of your choice. Any kind of little foods like that in there, and that offers an extra snack food for the birds. You can also, that same blue feeder that I put the jelly in, you could use that for a snack feeder as well. Another of my favorites is a feeder like this. It has a little bit smaller holes. They're a little bit different size than like a sunflower feeder or something. But this would be one that you would put peanut splits in. So it's peanuts that are already shelled. So these are peanuts that are already shelled and then they're just split in half. And so you could put something like that in there as well. Sorry, that phone will stop in a minute. So peanut splits, a lot of birds. Two that people don't realize is bluebirds and cardinals are huge peanut lovers. So they'll come to those chickadees, titmice, blue jays, many of our woodpeckers, nuthatches. So if you've never fed peanuts, you're missing out on that one. You'll bring in a whole new variety of birds with peanuts. So putting them in a feeder like that, putting them in, mixing them in a tray feeder, putting them in one of those little cups. So peanuts are a great snack item to add in there. And then number 7, bird baths. Every yard needs a bird bath. Bird baths are extremely important, not only for our birds, but other wildlife. So if you can put, a pan of water, a low bird bath as well, the other wildlife will appreciate it right now, especially with some of these hot days we're having. It does not have to be an actual bird bath. It can just be something that looks bird bathish. A pan of water, whatever you've got, something to help the wildlife and birds, get by through this heat. Again, be sure to change it out often. We have little things you can put in it to keep the mosquitoes from laying in it, so you're not going to have mosquito problems. You can also, water wiggler is a great option. You can add something like this to it. It moves the water. That again keeps the mosquitoes from laying in there. Moving water is also great because it attracts the birds in. So water's going to bring you more birds. Birds, again, those birds like our bluebirds are a member of the thrush family. So they're a water-loving bird. So a bird bath, I'm telling you, will definitely, it's a game changer. It will bring you more birds. I can promise you that. If you've got a glass bird bath and you notice they're just not using it, add some rocks or gravel to the bottom. Sometimes those are just too slippery for the birds to stand up in, and that may help them to get in there. But bird baths are important, and that's year round. So even in the winter, if you're not able to change that bird bath, we do have, you can get de-icers that you put in there. Doesn't heat the bird bath, but it just keeps it thawed, or change the water out a couple times a day to give them a source of water. And then perching branches. So that can be in the form of bushes, trees nearby. You can also use something like this. If you do have one of our pole systems, this centerpiece slides on our pole, and then you just cut branches and put on it. So if you have a yard that you just don't have a lot of trees or shrubs in it, this is a way to add some branches nearby for them. So, and you need, along with the perches, you need some vertical landing spots for the birds. So upright trees as well. If you haven't tried our bark butter, adding bark butter to those spots is a great way to get the birds into those spots. Bark butter is kind of like a peanut butter paste that can be spread right on with a fork, and that helps bring the birds in. but birds need to be able to land to perch, but they also, birds like our woodpeckers are clinging birds, so they need to be able to cling this way as well. So that is 8 and 9. And then number 10, which is one of the most important, thoughtful feeder placement. You need to immediately, before you put those feeders out, you need to think about where you're going to put them. One, you need to make sure you're putting that feeder somewhere that you can watch it and you can enjoy it. So if you put it around the side of the house where there's no windows, how much fun and enjoyment is that going to be for you? You're not going to remember to change it. You're not going to remember to clean those feeders. You'll never know when the birds are out of food. So when you're thinking about where you're going to set up that pole system or where you're going to hang that new feeder, take some time and think about, where do I spend most of the day sitting? Where can I watch the birds? Do you work from home? Do you, have a desk you spend a lot of time at, a chair you tend to sit at? Where can I put that pole system, or where can I put that feeder that I can watch? Is it, you going to hang it from a deck rail? Are you going to need that pole system out in the yard? With our pole systems, if you need to put it out in a yard, they can be built to go higher. So if one of mine in the front yard, because of the porch rail, I've had to build it a little bit higher so that I can still see it over that rail. So I actually, confession time, I have 11 of our pole systems, and that's not counting the ones that have houses on them, but they're all different. And I change them around a lot, kind of like people move furniture. I get bored looking at them, so I'll change them, but it's it's fun. Ours are made to be all convertible, and it's kind of like Tinker Toys for adults. But take some time and think about where you're going to put it. Then you need to decide, can it be squirrel proof? So if you're going to put it on the deck, it's not going to be squirrel proof. So then you need to think about, okay, do I want to get a squirrel proof feeder, or do I want to rely on hot pepper foods? So those are all things you need to, you don't want to buy a feeder and then realize, I can't use hot pepper food in that. I can't squirrel proof it. So now I've wasted my money. So take some time and think through that. And you can feel free to, if you want to come in the store and ask for help, take pictures of the location and come in the store, bring the pictures, bring them on your phone, whatever, and we'll help you think through it. And you don't have to buy the products from us, but we'll just be a sounding board for you. So then also with placement, if you want to squirrel proof it, you need 10 foot of clearance. So squirrels can jump horizontally 10 feet. And don't think, oh, well, I think my squirrels can only go 8 feet. Nope, your squirrels can go 10 feet too. All of our squirrels can go 10 feet. If they're coming out of a tree, they use those trees like trampolines. So if you have branches overhead, you need to plan on 13 feet because they will use those like a trampoline and just fling themselves off. So if you're going to use a pole, then we need that 10 foot of clearance around it. Then we can put a pole and we can put a baffle on it. If you already have a pole of your own, if that pole is tall enough that when you hang your feeder, the bottom of that feeder is 5 feet. So these are the things we need. If you already have a pole and you can put that pole where you have 10 feet around it, and when your feeder hangs off that pole, the bottom of the feeder is at 5 feet, then we can use this baffle that we would wrap around your pole and we can squirrel proof it. But if your bottom of your feeder isn't at 5 feet, if your pole is too short for that 5 feet, this baffle isn't going to do you any good because squirrels can jump from the ground straight up 5 feet. So we wouldn't want you to buy a baffle to put on your pole if it's too short. Then you need to use that pole and either use foods with hot pepper, a squirrel-proof feeder, or hang a pretty flower on it. Because otherwise that baffle is a waste of your money. If you have our pole system, then I have that baffle on it. This baffle works for squirrels. But again, even with our pole system, we need that 10 foot around it. We need to put the top of this at 5 feet, and this will keep squirrels out. At my house, I have to use this one because raccoons are an issue at my house. So at my house, I have this one on all of them. You see all of that? Because raccoons have thumbs with that little squirrel baffle, they will grab onto the bottom, reach the top, go up and sit their little rump on the top of that squirrel baffle. So we will caution you that if you are in a heavily wooded area, you may want to think about jumping straight to a raccoon baffle. In my case, I put squirrel baffles on originally, and then the raccoons found me. So then I had to go back and switch to all raccoon baffles. So learn from my mistakes. Let's see. And then if you're going to put it close to a window, so maybe you work from home and you're like, oh, I want it close to the window. Then you need to bring it within 3 feet of the window. Because if it's too far away, we want it close enough that if birds are coming to the feeders, they're not going to crash into the windows. So it's okay to have one close to the window, but we want it close enough that the birds aren't going to be flying at a fast rate of speed to hit your windows. So they're going to be going slow enough when they come to that, when they take off from that feeder, that you're not going to end up with window crash victims. So it's going to be an easy touch if they hit your window. Another thing to do to prevent window strikes, of course, is screens in your windows. And then we have a lot of decals in that as well to help with that. Okay, so thoughtful feeder placing, that's number 12, but really you kind of need to start there and go from there. And then number 11 is thinking about multiple feeding stations, because you are going to get more birds if you can feed in multiple locations. That's really easy to do we mentioned a tray feeder in a window. We also, hummingbird feeders you can do in a window. You know, maybe feed from a deck rail and then out there in a tree or out on a pole system. But just think about feeding in a few different places. If you're able to do that, you're going to see your bird activity increase. It doesn't mean you have to have 11 pole systems. It can be small, you know, a feeder here, a feeder here. You know, just hanging a suet feeder out on that tree out there. 3 there, I see, for Delilah. I challenge you. But yeah, you don't have to, and they don't have to be big, massive ones, but just expanding, because you'll notice that you have some birds that are a little shyer that won't come up as close to the house. You know, I have one that stays out closer to the woods that I am trying so hard to get the pileated woodpecker to come to. No luck yet. They're all over the yard, but no luck at the feeder. So I keep one, actually I have 2 front yard back that I keep closer to the woods with just suet on those, hoping to get the pileated in those. So that's number 11, multiple feeding stations. And then I kind of jumped ahead there because I've talked to it many times throughout. Number 12 is basic critter solutions. So baffles here in Southern Maryland, you just, you have to always be thinking solutions because we are inundated with squirrels here and then also raccoons. So squirrel-proof feeders, baffles, whether if you're feeding off a 4x4, there are baffles that can be put on wooden 4x4s as long as it's high enough. Hot pepper foods, even caged feeders, depending on if you have feeders that you've gotten from us. Several of my feeders right now have these cages on them and they're squirrel proof. That's because right now I'm trying to keep some of those darn grackles away to let some of my smaller birds eat. So I'm not feeding the grackles, but it's like, come on, guys, you're running all the little birds out. So I've got a few cages on some so that there are some feeders that only the little birds can get to. So thinking about critter solutions, whether it be squirrels, raccoons, or what we're dealing with here right now is the grackles. So again, you can get a hobby guide. You can find it. I didn't get it added to the LaPlata store today, so you'll have to find it on the St. Mary's website, wbu.com/St. Mary's County. And it's actually our hobby guide, but I did title it 12 Elements of a Thoughtful Bird Feeding Station, so it would be easier to find. But it is this entire hobby guide. So initially when you go in, you're going to find some pages on there that do not look like we talked about today. But if you keep leafing through it, you're going to get to this. And then of course, walk into either of our stores and just ask for a hobby guide and we'll give those to you. So with that, what questions do we have, Christine?
Well, we just had one comment when you were talking about the grape jelly. Kathleen had said cardinals like the jelly too,
Yes.
that
Yeah, I
she was
forgot about the
finding.
cardinals. Yeah.
Yeah, nice to keep them in the loop.
Yes.
And I was thinking with your 11 pull systems, you're actually just doing market research, right?
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So you
Yes.
need all those, right? Um, I was wondering with the baffles, if I'm
Mhm.
remembering, because I haven't checked mine since I put it up there, but I think it's a little bit loose, isn't it? Like it's like
Yeah.
you want it to be
Yeah,
move when they
exactly.
get on it.
So it will, you can see on this one, it's actually going to move. So, and the same with the raccoon baffle. So the squirrels are going to try to come up, or the raccoons, and it's going to move on there. So it's just laying on this little flange there, and it's going to move as they try to come up. In fact, several times we've seen on the raccoon baffle, when hawks come flying into the backyard, the squirrels go up and hide in the raccoon baffle from the hawk. And then pretty soon you'll see them like peek out, like, is it all clear yet?
Hey, make it work for you.
Exactly. Use what you have. But yeah, it should be loose on there. And that
Um,
raccoon baffle is the same one that we use on our bluebird poles because that will also is what prevents the snakes from getting into the bluebird houses.
mm. Oh, Delilah said they have a bald eagle family in their tall tree. Well, that's super
Oh,
exciting, but she's wondering how
awesome.
that affects the birds coming into her yard because she's thinking that that scares them away.
Yeah, that is not an issue because they're not really a predator of the birds, so that's not a concern.
I did have a hawk fly in and snatch a mourning dove out of the air,
Okay,
right? Yeah.
that is actually kind of cool because when that starts happening, that means you have created top to bottom feeding at your station. That and what they are going to get your weaker, older, less healthy birds. So
Oh.
if they weren't there to kind of keep your station clean, when somebody gets an illness or something, that disease is going to keep getting passed around. So it's
Mm.
actually a good thing that they kind of clean that out and get those sicker or less healthy ones.
Yeah, it actually surprised me that it was the first time that I was aware of it happening because
Right,
I would think like a bird feeder is sort of a nice, attractive thing for a hawk. Is that
right,
yeah. Like, oh hey, look, all the birds are attracted to this.
right.
But I
Well, and
hadn't
actually
seen it.
our red shoulder and red tail hawks tend to go for squirrels and bunnies. So it's actually our sharp shins and Coopers are the two that really go for birds.
Oh, okay. Do you have many of those around your house? Because you do have.
So the only time is during nesting season. And so on occasion, then they will teach the young to hunt around there, and that's never fun to see.
Yeah.
But it usually only lasts for a week or two. And like you said, it does tend to be the doves. Doves nest several times a year.
Mm-hmm.
So
Because they need to.
because they need to, yeah. So, and
Uh,
definitely not our brighter birds.
yeah. But it's all the great big circle of life,
It
right?
exactly, yes.
They have to eat too.
Right.
Okay. Let's see. Not so much questions. Oh, Delilah. Oh, they live on the bay, on the Pax River side.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, so they get everything. Tree line and water line. Ooh,
Wonderful.
it is fun. Hopefully you get some cool water birds too.
Yes. Yeah, and if there's anybody that hasn't found our Facebook group, it's Birds of SOMD by WBU, and you can request to join. It'll ask you some questions, and that's just what I use to keep the creepers out. So just answer those questions and just say, yes, you're a customer of our store, or that you sat on the library talk or something, so I'll know that you're legitimate. But it's a great way to share pictures that you have, or to learn more and ask questions, things like that. But
Oh,
it tends to be mostly our customers in that, and it doesn't have to be great birding pictures either.
I'm adding that to my follow-up email. What were the search words to find your
It's
group?
Birds of SOMD by WBU.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm adding that to the follow-up email I'm sending everybody
Perfect.
in case you don't get it jotted down right now.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Okay. Okay, bye, Delilah. She's going to cook dinner. I know. It is tough in the evening because it takes away from something you're trying to do. So we get that. So Barb, you were telling me you're going to the big convention next week, which
Right,
is and uh and that's the one I had mentioned last time that you got the franchise honor award, and you're going
right.
to be getting that when you go. I think that's really fantastic. It's nice they recognize your good work. Um,
Thank you.
and you also mentioned that the main speaker is Christian Cooper,
Yes.
who's also an author, and he wrote a pretty cool book.
Yeah.
If you want to mention that, because I'll put a link to that book too. We have it in print and in audiobook.
Yeah, if anybody remembers, Christian Cooper is the black birder that, gosh, has it been maybe a couple years ago? He was birding in Central Park, and because he was a black man with binoculars, a lady approached him. Everybody remember that story?
Mm,
But he actually turned it into something amazing. And so he's our speaker. So I'm really jazzed to get to go birding with him. But he has written a great book. And I will say I'm listening to it on audio right now. And I really think that this is one that is best listened to on audio because he is the one reading it.
mm,
And in this book, he tells of his life as oh my gosh, a nerdy, nerdy gay boy and how he came out. And it's an awesome book to listen to. So, but I do feel it's better to listen to. So if
mm.
anybody, like I'm drawing a blank on the name now. Do you remember what I told you it was, Christine?
The book, oh, Better Living Through Birding.
There you go. Better Living Through Birding. It's an
Yep.
awesome book, though. But he actually just won an Emmy too. He has some TV shows as well. They are available on Amazon too. His shows haven't been renewed for the next year, though,
Oh,
unfortunately. But they're on these shows, he goes birding in different locations. So it's a great way to go birding from your living room.
right. But
Go to
but
Hawaii.
you get to go with
Exactly.
him in person though, so that's so
Right.
cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm kind of fangirling over this one.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I checked we do have the audiobook through our Libby app. There is a wait on it, but you can place a hold, and then you'll get it when the other people are done with it. I looked up The Joy of Bird Feeding, which is by Jim Carpenter. We don't have it in the Tri-County area, but you may be able to reserve it through the Marina system. So that would be another option for finding that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I think oh wait, one new message. Oh, Kathleen asked to put the link into the book. So yep, that'll be in the follow-up email that I'll send once I get the copy of the recording. So that'll go out to either Saturday or Monday is when you should be seeing that. There'll also be a link to our next program, which is on July 11th, and that's the top 20 backyard birds of Southern Maryland. Um, so Barb will talk about which ones they are as far as I think population based, like which ones are our most common, but also how to get them to come to your yard so you can see them all.
Yes.
Maybe someday we'll get the elusive Baltimore Oriole.
Right.
Okay. Well, I think that's all the questions that we have. And Barb, I hope you have a great time
Thank
at the
you.
convention
Thanks.
where you're hanging out with Christian Cooper. So that's cool.
Yeah. Seriously.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming tonight. And look for that follow-up email. And I hope that we'll see you next time.
All right. See y'all.
Bye-bye,
Thanks for
everybody.
coming.